Hey, everybody, welcome back to the High Performance Zone. Today, I have Alex Weber. Let me tell you, this guy's done some amazing things. He not only hosted the Emmys and American Ninja Warrior, but he participated in them. He was the US Lacrosse Coach of the Year and still holds the records in the world as the second highest leading scorer. But we dive into more important stuff like your morning routine, how you can take 17 seconds to cement positive energy. We also get into the 4 big steps. You got to listen to this. I'm excited. Ready? Hit it. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the High Performance Zone. I have today a Ninja Warrior, but also well more than that. Alex Weber just got a new book out. Lots of things we're going to talk about. First off, Alex, welcome to the High Performance Zone.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to be here. I like you wearing the shirt. I mean, we both got the colors on. Now you also got your Ninja Warrior sweatshirt on too. Yeah, I like that. People who can see that. Hey, Alex, I know you got so many things in your background. We're going to dive into more importantly the why, but give my audience a little bit of your background. What is it that you've done? Whether it's lacrosse, I know you're the world's leading scorer, something like that. I want to unpack that. Whether it was with the Ninja Warrior, whether it's you're speaking now, what is it that really impacts you?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that. And you know, the real common thread throughout it has been people.
Okay.
Many years ago, I played Division I college lacrosse in the Ivy League at UPenn, and that was my first dream.
You played at Penn. All right, there you go. First off, you had to be athletic and smart to be in the Ivy League. I like that.
Smart-ish.
Okay, I got it.
Smart adjacent. It was. I did like studying. I liked certain courses, some more than others, but because it was in line with my dream of playing college lacrosse, whatever you got to do. So I got to learn physics. Let's learn physics because then I can go play lacrosse in college. So I really think that's why it's so important to really know why you want something. And that was the first moment. I was supposed to go into finance and business. That was my major. And that was really the first moment in my life where I asked myself what I think is the most important question we can ever ask, and an incredibly fortunate and scary question, which is, what do you want to do with your moments on earth? Yeah. And I quickly realized that purpose, that's what I want to do. I didn't really know what that purpose was, but I knew that was going to be in the driver's seat of my life.
And that was in college while you're playing lacrosse. That's where that came to you. Wow, powerful. I always like to ask a question in my workshops. We both get to speak and do workshops and stuff. And it gets down to this deep question. So I'm going to ask it of you, and then we'll share it with each other. But it's the who am I question. So if I were to ask you, who am I? And you answer it with the I am, right? I am blank.
Ooh.
I know, man. Go for it. Just right off the cuff. Who is I am who?
It's so powerful. So powerful, right? We're like setting our identity with that.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I'm very passionate.
Love it.
I'm very driven. And I'm full. Like I don't have a half speed in anything. So anything I do, if that's family, if that's friends, if that's a cookout, if that's American Ninja Warrior, I'm all in. I'll start there. I'll start with that. And I love people.
That's
awesome. Of people.
You know what's cool, Alex? I ask this a lot of many different people, organizations, and it doesn't matter what organization. It could be healthcare, it could be technology, it could be sports teams. It's very interesting to me how people define themselves after that first I am question. I thought what was really impressive is you didn't use any of your past accolades. You didn't say I'm a lacrosse player, I'm a Ninja Warrior. No, you went to something deep. You went to passion and people, and that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. What next question? Why am I here? So why are you here?
I mean, I'm incredibly excited and grateful for the opportunity to be here with you, John. And we connected briefly offline before we hopped in. I've been an admirer of what you stand for and what you do for a while. So for me, why I'm here is gratitude and excitement for the opportunity to connect with you about something that we're both passionate about, which is helping people, inspiring people, challenging people, pushing people, and to have the chance to share a little bit of my journey and my experience, ups and downs.
Yeah, in fact, let's dive into that right now because it's about your journey that I want to unpack, and then we'll get into a lot of your processes and what you've learned. But tell me a little bit about that journey. So you started with lacrosse at Penn, but where'd you go from there? What's it has impacted you?
Yeah, and it's so incredible. I know a core pillar of what you speak on is mindset, and that was my first real introduction to how wide mindset really is, because I had laser focus. I was determined. I would outwork. I was there, and I was very physically talented. I started every single game as a freshman.
Did you
and
really?
I got benched every single game as a sophomore.
Wow.
And that I will never forget, because I was bigger, talented, stronger my sophomore year, more experienced. But I was just I held it so tight that if I made a mistake, if I missed a shot, if I screwed up, it was I couldn't handle it. And I was just too intense with everything. And I'll never really forget that. And I came back and led the team in goals my junior year and had a solid career, but I never really understood the mental component. And what I call my grad school was, after changing careers, which I was going to go into finance, I listened to my heart and I knew I wanted to do something in entertainment and people. I ended up moving to LA, which might be a cliche, but I started coaching high school lacrosse. Nice. And fell in love. And the most defining moment for me really in a lot of my life was I was named interim head coach right before the season, which means interim means, all right, Alex, I was 25 years old. You coach it, and then we'll fire you and find someone more veteran, experienced after the season. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to go all in. I'm going to give this everything I have, and then I'll say goodbye to this sport. Before I took over, the team had never won a playoff game in school history. And that first year, we won the Los Angeles Championship. I was awarded US Lacrosse Coach of the Year. The kids won awards. Wow. And that really was one of the most pivotal moments in my life.
What school was that in LA?
So it was Harvard Westlake in Los Angeles.
Okay. And were you guys at 5A, 4A? What was that?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. We were so basically in lacrosse, probably because it's not as big as football. It's open. It's open.
Okay. I got
you. We played everybody. It was great. I mean, and that's really why I bring it up, is that mindset piece. And I know you know this in everything that you've done, is you got the physical skill set, but it's that mental, how are we showing up mentally and emotionally, especially in the tough moments, that I think determines everything.
Well, I love that you're all in. You've mentioned that a couple of times, and that's pretty cool. Hey, you consider yourself an expert at sucking. That's what my research has done. Well, what do you mean by that? Talk to me.
I'm glad that comes up. Yeah. So and that is all from American Ninja Warrior. Okay. One of the most pivotal, another really defining moment in my life was, so I started out as a host for NBC American Ninja Warrior to host this digital all access series where I basically give behind the scenes.
Why'd they pick you? How do you become a host?
Great. These are such great questions. And I want to give this slightly deeper answer because I first moved to LA and I was like, I guess I'll be an actor. I want to do something in entertainment. I don't know, I guess acting. And I wasn't terribly good at it. I felt like I was always trying to be someone else. Right. I would go into these auditions and I'd be like, is this right? And they're like, no, next. Like, validate,
Hey, I think if you have to ask if it's right, you're already, you're done, but go for it. Keep going.
And then a friend of mine was a host and I was like, what is this? What is this? And so I went to this hosting workshop, and two really important lessons I think from this was, I went to this hosting workshop and I was like, oh, this is great. This is how I'm being right now. This is how John's being. This is how we are with our friends and our family. Right. And that was like, it really was very encouraging. But a little small, two small lessons from that I found were really interesting was, so I was like, okay, I'm going to be a host. I see that. I can be that. That's who I've been in my life. And this casting director was like, I'm going to introduce you to an agent. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is happening. The dream's happening. And I followed up and she didn't respond. And I followed up and she didn't respond. And something just went in me where I go, I'm going to respond every week until the end of time. And usually I would maybe give it a few goes and okay, it's not a fit, but something just was like, I'm going to respond forever. And I did it. And I look back at these email lists. It was every week for 51 weeks. And on the 52nd week, she goes, I'd love to introduce you to this agent, Paul. And I'm like, this worked? This worked?
So, that's great. 51 weeks 51. And 52. 51. See, right there's a huge lesson for everybody who's got that kind of determination and, resiliency. This is, there's so many stories of people who got turned down, whether it's the, Jack Canfield chicken soup for the soul stuff.
Yeah,
So many
yeah.
people get turned down, but keep going, man. That's amazing. 52
But
weeks.
it's absolutely, and I think like an important nuance to it is I made the decision also to never come with passive aggressive or contempt or no one needs that. No one needs that. I was like, you know what? I'm going to be encouraging. I'm going to be uplifting, try to throw in a joke here and there, something fun, but I'm just going to be here. I'm glad to be here,
Yeah,
So,
that's it. Okay, let's go on that. What does glad to be here mean to you in that context? Go for it.
It means that no one said, Alex, write this email 51 times. It meant that I had the choice to say, you know what? I care about this. I care about it so much. I want to write this email. And so if I get to do that, if I get to write this email, I am coming from a place of excitement, of opportunity, of gratitude, and it doesn't mean we're not going to be tested along, especially those 51 weeks, but I love that outlook of whatever you're going to. And this is so important. It doesn't matter if it's a lunch or a pitch or a workout challenge, or, maybe it's showing up with someone that we've had a difficult background in our relationship, but just having that outlook of, I am glad to be here. I am grateful and excited for what this can be. It just changes everything.
Wow. I'm doing a lot of studying on this, right? And neuroscience. And it just, we all know it deep in our hearts, but it's cool when it's backed up, right? And what you were saying is backed up by science. And that is this ability to take, an obstacle or a challenge and actually turn it an opportunity. Now, it's easy to say that, right? But you got a story, because that's the key is, and I know you know this in speaking, is you have to have a narrative around it, right? Yeah. And your story is what people connect to. That's what I just connected to. 52 weeks. I was like, holy crap, but that's not the first time you've done this, right? So let's go. So you become, what happens? All right. So the agent says,
100%. And really where my sucking really took force was when I was doing the TV hosting and stand-up comedy. But you're so right, because but sucking, what does that mean? Failing, what does that mean? It means, I call it in the book, expectation and reality. So that's the gap. And so I expected I'd shoot, that casting director the email and she'd be like, right this way, we've got a show for you to host. Reality was very different. And this is the other important nuance. And I often don't get an opportunity to share this, but it's really important. I finally went into, a year later, that TV host, the agent's office. And I remember sitting down with him and he goes, it's really tough out there. I was like, okay. He goes, I don't know what to tell you. It is real tough out there. And I was like, are we partnering? What is happening right here? Right. But this is why it's important. I went off. That was right before the holidays. I went off. I'm from New York. I decided, my mom and dad, they drove me into New York City, a little family outing, and I hired a camera guy and I went around New York City and I just took a leap of faith. I believed in myself even before people saw it. And I just filmed a fake show as if I was hosting my dream show. Me in my element. What I did is I went around New York City trying to get restaurants and bars to name something after me there. And it was fun. I went to this Italian restaurant. They were like, what? And they brought out this meatball with super hot sauce. My mouth is burning, but they put it on the menu, Weber's meatball. And so.
Wait a minute. What was the name? What meatball?
Weber's meatball.
Weber's. Okay. So you were trying to get them to put your name on one of the things. And it was a last name or what? Last name?
Oh, anything. I was just so fired up. Yeah.
Weber's meatball. I love
it. Yeah, Angelo's downtown. Hopefully it's still there. But it's why that was so important was I put together, because that's important too. We can't just have raw materials in anything we do. Whatever line of work we're in, we need to make it palatable. And I put it into a nice video and I sent it to the agent. And he goes, "Oh, we could do some things." And it was a few weeks after that I auditioned and got hired by FX. Then I got hired to host with the Grammys. And then I got hired to host with NBC American Ninja Warrior. You
hosted the Grammys? I didn't know this.
So like a red carpet, hey, what are you doing here? How's your album? That kind of thing. And that was just such an important lesson. And what I learned from that, and I encourage a lot of people to, is people don't see it until they see it.
Right.
Meaning it's not on everyone else to see your raw abilities. If you want to be a leader, if you are creative, if you are athletic, if you are worthy of love, it's great if people encourage you, but even if they don't, it can come from here.
Yeah, I love that. People don't see it till they see it.
Yeah.
I'm writing that down because that's cool. All right. So first off, are you a big music buff? Because I'm picturing myself here. I'm going, holy crap! You're a host, right? That's a different thing, right? And you're going to interview the best in music, and I wouldn't know what's good or what's bad right now. But what about you?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've learned in that kind of a setting, and that's even why I won't, go into it, why I'm even more drawn to speaking, and where I got drawn to stand up. But hosting, I would say energy is number one in that.
Okay.
Energy will get you about 80% of the way. And what I just admire musicians, it's something so different. I come from athletics, which is, but what I found is cool. And I actually hosted for this secret music series, So Far Sounds, for about a year and a half. I would host a music show every week. Gosh, there was, I'm blanking on the names, but huge artists that would come through. And I just always appreciated the dedication of musicians, because that's not an easy track. And so they've got a lot of grit, which is beautiful. It's like grit and artistic.
Oh, I love that. I'm picturing that agent, you in the agent's room and a musician, it's tough out there. It's really tough. There's a lot of musicians out there. And it's like, wait a minute, well, but I love that you made the breakthrough. So, okay, this is really cool. I actually didn't know, by the way, your speaking career, keynotes, I know you're doing is great, but you need to be the host of events. That's a full-on business, right? People to host the full events. That's be great for you.
I appreciate it. And, I have done it, and I welcome any and all opportunities, because it's fun. I mean, at the end of the day, that's fun. And I come from a background of, I hosted professionally TV for 5 years. And so I appreciate that. I'm all in.
Hey, we're going to get more into the hosting, but you mentioned something earlier I want to hit on right away, and that's humor, right? And I saw that you got a chance to speak at the Stanford Graduate School of Business. Tell me about that, and what you spoke on humor and leadership, or what did you speak about?
That's exactly right. How we can use humor for business, life, and leadership. And, Naomi and Jennifer, who just released last year an amazing book, Humor, Serious Business, are phenomenal. And they've brought me in now. It's been 3 times to guest lecture. And, so stand-up comedy was another dream of mine. And eventually, you come to that kind of crossroads. And this was really, I just had an honest moment with myself, because it's tough. It's a very difficult craft. It's also a difficult career path. And so I kind of rationalize it and put it away on a shelf, as we kind of do with those difficult goals. And then one day I was just like, all right, Alex, here's the truth. You can either not do it, and that's fine, but just know that at the end of your life, you're going to regret this. So that's an option. Or you can start doing this, and whatever it goes, you won't regret it. And I was like, oh, that is real. Poof, that is all right, that is direct. But it was that conversation with myself that ultimately led me to, you know what, I'm just going to hop in. And so that was my background of really learning stand-up comedy. And really, I was performing 5 nights a week for 5 years doing stand-up. And what I realized—
were you in New York at the time?
So LA, and then I'm a partner in a company, Don't Tell Comedy, where we put on secret comedy shows around the nation and even in London. And so what I realized, though, was really where one of my biggest assets when I won US Lacrosse Coach of the Year was that I could use humor in really intense settings. And what I use it as a vehicle for is to diffuse what ultimately hurt me as a college lacrosse player. It was either success or failure, and it was so intense. And so I'd use some humor as we headed into overtime, as we were playing for a championship, as we were going against better teams, to kind of, we're good here. And it's that kind of like, okay, then we can play.
Give me some examples. So I played a lot of college athlete sports. I speak to a lot of the big teams out there in the world. I know you do too. I'm thinking about Alabama and Georgia right now, as they're going into the championships with Cincinnati and Michigan. By the way, Jim Harbaugh is an acquaintance of mine, but the point, actually his dad is. I know his dad much more than him. But give me some real life examples of humor and athletics.
Yeah, I love that. And I loved coaching so much, and I know that in another chapter of life down the road, I'll do it again, because it was just great. It's so beautiful. And I'll say 2. One is more public, which was intentional. I wanted the team to hear. I wanted the other team to hear. And then there's also more personal. I think that's an important leadership lesson for people in organizations. There's value to public and there's value to one-on-one. And they were actually both in the same game. We were playing our rival, Loyola, who is a force. They are a force in LA, one of the top teams in the nation. And they were our rival at the time. And one guy that I loved, I really believed in him. He was a freshman. His family and his culture, he was a first-generation American. His family's from South Korea, was more reserved. And I really wanted him to have confidence. And so I believed in him, and I put him as a starter against our rival. First 3 opportunities, he was a goal scorer. That was his position. That's what our organization.
You call that an attack, or what do you call
exactly?
That?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Exactly that. You know it.
And there's only one guy that's the attacker, right? Or is there more?
Well, so we have 3, but his position was really like he was right in front of the goal, kind of
in the center. Got it.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. He's like, your job's to score, and I was that a lot of times too.
Yeah.
And his first 3 opportunities on the doorstep, which everyone in our team has to do the right thing to get that opportunity. He crapped the bed, excuse my French. Right. And second one, same thing. Third one, same thing.
Ooh.
So I called the timeout and I went to him personally and just kind of had some levity with him. And I was like, man, am I yelling at you right now? Am I pulling you from the game? And like, I cited some personal jokes because I had trained and worked with him of things in the past. And I'm like, I want you to get loud here. I want you to like, I'm believing in you because I know you're going to score the next one. I know you're going to score the next one. And I know you're going to celebrate and we're going to all hype you up. Fast forward, he ended up scoring 6 goals that game.
Wow.
Which is a lot of goals to score.
Sure.
It's a career high for just about anyone in the sport of lacrosse. And he did celebrate and he did get hyped and everyone was cheering him on. And I just, what really stuck with me and why I honestly felt like I healed a little bit of the 20-year-old me in that experience was because bless my coach's, heart at the time, but if you missed, you were gone. And I felt like in this opportunity for someone who missed 3 prime opportunities to still believe in him. And this is where I think it's a really important leadership lesson is this is not frilly afterthought, feel goody stuff.
Right.
He scored 6 goals. That helped us win.
Yeah. That brings up a point, and it happened to me in football. I was the safety, but I'm also the punt returner. And we're playing Georgia Tech. We got to win this game to go to a bowl game. And so we're actually, I think we're down by like 3 points and they go to quick kick it. So I go running back and that rarely happens. And the bottom line, they punt it and I fumble the punt right now, but it's one of those things that goes through my hands and it hits the ground. And it's just as I'm diving on it, I just get creamed, right? Bottom line is, of course, they recover inside our own 10-yard line. And I'm like running off the field because I just want to hide, I want to find that crack in the AstroTurf, right? And all of a sudden my teammates are yelling at me and they're hitting me and they're pushing me on the sidelines. And I'm like going, hey, what the hell? I know I fumbled, but and I realized what they were doing was pushing me back in the game because I'm the safety. I'm supposed to be on the field, right? Yeah. And anyhow, bottom line is they fumble the next play. We recover. We win the game. But here's the point. Fortunate. But here's the question more than the story is it was really hard. And I don't think I ever got that vision out of my head of fumbling the punt. When every punt that I went back to in the Army-Navy game right after that, I'm just thinking about don't fumble instead of thinking what I really should be doing, which is let's score, let's return this thing and score, right? So here's my question is with, how would you handle that as a coach or even as a player? How do you get your mind to not remunerate on a negative thought?
It's so, you nailed it. And gosh, I also just that exact moment in sports is one of the most difficult, the one you're describing. And for everyone listening, you've got this air ball coming 60 yards from the sky. And then as you're trying to focus on that, you've got people with a 60-yard sprint who are coming to take your head off. So it's, I have a lot of admiration for that moment in sports. It's tough. The rumination, like you said, is tough. And that's ultimately what I view failing as is there's a 3 chain reaction. What happens? Emotional, we learn something, we commit, or we don't. And we have a choice in each 3 of those. So the rumination is in the emotional reaction. I went to a Ninja Warrior competition this weekend. I knew that I wasn't my sharpest, all this. I was just actually in the jungle last week on this like crazy retreat. And I knew all those voices in my head were reasons to not show up. but I also know that the real me shows up for this, even if it's not perfect, even if all these excuses, whatever, because I would be lying to myself if I didn't. So I did show up. It didn't go great. Didn't go great. But the key right now is to not ruminate on it. And to answer your question, I would say focus on what you want to happen. Because this operating system, and I know you know all the science of this, but this operating system of our brain, if we focus, if you're riding a bike and you go, don't hit the pole, don't hit the pole, don't hit the, you're going to hit that pole.
Yeah.
But if you focus on that, on where the open space is, so that's what I would say to a player is just focus and visualize and tell every one of your senses and the operating system, we are catching this. I'm catching this ball. I'm catching this ball. I'm catching this ball. And whatever the micro detail is, focus on the laces. You know the sport better than I do, but that is really, this is one where I just go back to this beautiful balance of we're human beings and we can also be a little robotic. And sometimes if my emotions are, if I don't feel like I'm in the driver's seat, I just kind of ask myself, okay, could I be a little bit more robotic here? Could I tap into just using this machinery and not as emotionally variable as maybe I want to feel?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. That's good advice. And it is, as much as I've got to be honest with you, I got better at it later in life because I couldn't shake that quickly for the next game at least. And I wish I could. That's why I'm sharing it now with somebody else. Because focusing on, okay, what do you want to happen in the positive, but also being grateful. And this is what I'd add to it. Being grateful, what I've learned later is on just having the opportunity to be back there, being grateful that your teammates are counting on you and just being grateful added to the visualization, the positivity, I think really kicks in a different sense of presence and awareness, which we all need. Hey, something that just leading me to, I love that you have a point on the positive energy edge and the big 4 steps. I'm thinking this might be a good time to dive into that. What is that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something where I've been called positive and energetic my entire life to the point where I almost rebelled against it a little bit of, you know what I mean? And I was like, I also feel negative. I'm not like a Labrador retriever. Like, I also have moments where I need to shut down. I'm not energetic all the time. But then I really, I process what that meant to me. What does positive energy mean to me? And ultimately, it's just like what you're saying. And it is this choice. It is this choice. And I'm so big on the autonomy of choosing how we show up to things, choosing that we get to do things. And for me, I've gone through rough relationships. I've had people that I love get sick. I've had dream jobs not work out, and we're gonna get knocked on our butts. And I'll even share one I really got knocked on my butt in 2020. And I will share about that because it's really important. And so my express route in American Ninja Warrior was I hosted for 2 years. My job was to try these obstacles, be a host. Hey, here we are in Oklahoma City. Look how crazy this thing is. But then they thought it'd be fun if I went and tried it. So for one whole year, I would just comedically fail. And, all my athletic background didn't really matter because the volume was up on my comedic entertainer. And that's the side of me that was showing up.
Okay. So were you trying to fail or was that just the result?
Real talk, it didn't matter. Those obstacles were so difficult. For me, who came from lacrosse and hockey, which it's feet on the ground, hanging and twisting and leaping, it didn't matter if I was trying or not, I was going down.
Okay.
And come the second year, the producers and the creators at NBC American Ninja Warrior, amazing people, they said, we think it'd be pretty cool if you got good at this. And I was like, I'm sorry, what is that? You want me to get good at this? And that was so pivotal because now for my dream job, for this purpose, for this amazing opportunity, I had to succeed at something that the only thing I'd known was failure. So we touched on this, the big 4 moments. And the first one is before validation, which means it's just like people don't see it until they see it. It means you want to do something. You want to lead this new initiative. You want to start a company. You want to reignite the romance in your relationships. You want to get chiseled, whatever it is for you, but it isn't happening right now. So how do we get that momentum? How do we get it out of a dead standstill or locked away in some cabinet of someday? And how do we get it into the real world? And so fast forward.
What do you call that? What'd you call that?
So that's before validation. That's the first one of the big 4 moments.
Before validation. Okay, got it. Yep.
Yeah. And those are so beautiful because really, if this can come from someone else, maybe someone else believes in you, someone at your organization or a family member or friend and says, hey, I think you'd be great at this. But usually those classify as I've always wanted to. I've always wanted to. What is that for you? I know everyone listening has an I've always wanted to. And life doesn't care. Life is busy. So it's going to stay in that cabinet unless we take it out. And for me, so American Ninja Warrior, really, and this is, this is big in the book, was the biggest game changer for me was I realized if I got to get good at this sport that is impossible for me, I got to start training with the best people. And so I just dove in the deep end. I just showed up to Ninja Warrior gyms. I called Ninja Warriors. I'm still doing that. I just moved to the Colorado area. I'm calling up people. It's uncomfortable. I say, hey, can I come and train with you?
Wow.
And that is just, for whatever everyone listening, for whatever your pursuit is, find a way to dive in the deep end because it's happening. Now I got plans to train on Tuesday night. It's happening. I got to be there. I can get out of my own way a little bit. And so fast forward, that journey of going from failing as a host and diving in the deep end led me to succeeding at American Ninja Warrior to the point that we won an award for what I hosted, and then led me to coming back and competing as an American Ninja Warrior now 2 times. So so that's the journey there.
Well, let me ask a couple questions. First off, I love the idea of surround yourself with people who are trying to do something, very hard and very challenging. That was with the Blue Angels, but really in anything, in fighter pilots, you surround yourself with others who are pushing the limit, and you learn and you try, and just being there, showing up is important, and mentoring others too, right? Not just learning, but mentoring others. So how does one train to be a Ninja Warrior though? What kind of training is that?
So there's a lot of different ways. When I first got into the world was 2016. Now it was starting then, but you had to have a lot of grit. You had to set up courses in your backyard and a lot of dedication.
Really?
Now, if you are within an hour of a city, I guarantee you there's an amazing Ninja Warrior gym there. And so that is what I would say is the best step is find the Ninja Warrior gym, go to an open gym, go up to someone and say, hey, this is my first time. And this is where I love the Ninja Warrior community so much. They're going to say, oh my gosh, amazing, great. And they're going to give you some tips. They're going to give you some things to practice. They will, because that's just the culture of the sport.
Nice.
And as it's exploding and growing, I think it's that culture is staying intact, which is pretty cool.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't realize it was that big right now. I mean, I've seen the shows like crazy. What does it take to be good as a Ninja Warrior? I mean, you have different kind of athletes. You're lacrosse, hockey, fast, quick, but what is it that what's the body type that's needed?
And it's such a good question. I'm excited to kind of, it's not often where I get to like deep dive on the actual like athletic craft of it, but because of how well all this, this is fun. So for me, there's been an evolution. The first one, the biggest hurdle was athletic physical, right? I got to get strength to be able to hang because I didn't come from hanging. So I just needed what I call time on obstacles. No substitute for experience. I just got to show up and just hang and get strength. Then was athleticism of learning how to twist, move, how to flow, and how to like leap from bar to bar and thing to thing, which was also very difficult. Now, those two ironically came to me much quicker than the third one, which was knowledge. Meaning, how do you look at an obstacle and say, that's how it works? Even though, because when you get to the series and you compete, you don't know the obstacles until you go on the course. They're all new, they're all creative. So you have to diagnose it right before you get one shot. And so you have to know, okay, it's like that. I would probably grab there, I'd do this, I'd twist, I'd leap. And this was my biggest learning lesson, and one that I'm still learning, is mapping out this. I didn't learn until this season, competing 2021. And after this competition this weekend, I need to keep relearning it, is lacrosse, hockey, football. Football is more strategic and mapped, but there's a little like a beautiful chaos. People can run anywhere. The puck in hockey will go here. Lacrosse, it'll bounce here. Right. In Ninja Warrior, it is amazing how specific people map out the plan. I will grab here, I will twist, I will breathe here, then I'll grab here, then I'll leap. And So that was a learning lesson of specific knowledge and focus.
Oh, I like that. I call that under a lot of the teachings I give under preparation, under the brief, being prepared before you go out there. We would brief before we went flying, but it wasn't just the idea. Everybody does that, but it was the level of detail. It was the level of visualization. It was the level of knowing, like you just said, we had a sequence of events, of maneuvers, but even in between those sequences were sequences, and getting feedback in between immediately so you could adjust. Being very clear on that. We use visualization a lot, and I was just speaking to over 2,500 high school kids, which, by the way, I haven't done in a while. It was so cool to be in an auditorium. We had 2 different ones with major screens up, thousands of kids, and being able there to really connect with them, right? Because kids, you can't fake it. They understand, right? Like the energy that you bring, but also the messaging. Anyhow, my point was that getting back to what you said, which is the preparation, and we use visualization a lot. Do you use that? And if so, how?
That's amazing. And especially what's so incredible about what you've done is the stakes, and I think that is what I'm sure I'm not alone of people being and drawing in, is just the stakes of how you have to be disciplined to that visualization. And that's really what I found in my own journey is it's the discipline, because I would visualize sometimes, and then it sounds nutty, but the scared, negative part of my mind would almost try to mess with the visualization. And that happened, and I needed discipline to refocus back to what I do want to have happen in this dry run.
Yeah. I actually found that, I guess early on, sometimes that creeps in, but what I found, mostly like flying jets off aircraft carriers, the catapult shot and that kind of stuff, especially at night, you have certain procedures you need to do, but you're also along for the ride. And on the cat stroke, 0 to 200 miles per hour in like 1.8 seconds. But the one thing I did do is, right before, and you're busy, you're taxiing up to the catapult, you're being directed by, people, they're checking your ordnance, they're checking to see if you're safe. You got to do a lot of stuff. You're not just kind of hanging out. And in my mind, what I would do is I'd always go through the worst case scenario, which is if you lost an engine going off the catapult, because you really had very split seconds to make the correct decision. If you're in a multi-engine airplane, it's just full afterburner, full opposite rudder, set the alpha at like 17.5 alpha, emergency jettison, get the weight off your airplane. And then you kind of got to wait. If you do everything right, you just kind of got to wait and see if it's going to fly or not. And that's a very that moment is like, whoa, because you're only 60 feet off the water to begin with, and now you're dropping, right? So, but my whole point is I would go through that, I would go through that right before the catapult, and then I was gone. There was no more fear. There was no more scared. It was all about just executing. So, I don't know, maybe what's the lesson to that is if fear comes in, if scared comes in, maybe acknowledge it and then just say, but no, my training is going to overcome this, and right back to what you want to happen. What do you think?
I love that. And I think that, I'm sure walking up to it or walking up or being flown up to it, that voice of fear creeps in because of just the circumstances of what you're around. But what hit home for especially what you said was just like the trust in your preparation. And John Wooden, who one of the most all-time winning championship coaches in basketball history, failure to prepare is preparing to fail. That'll pop in my head sometimes when things don't go well. If I have a meeting or whatever it is, that line will pop in my head. I'll be like, Coach Wooden's right. I probably should have prepared more. And I say that also to say that this is all a learning experience, and I try to be open about my failures because this is an education. Life is an education, and we're growing. And, failings are often the opportunity where we can grab what I call a golden nugget and be like, oh, okay, now I've uncovered something where if I put this in, I'm really going to level up.
Yeah. So let's get into your process, because I love the idea of expert at sucking and failing and learning from failing. So what is your process to learn from your failures?
So the first one, and when I first went to the American Ninja Warrior gyms, I can't even begin to say how uncomfortable it was. I didn't even know where I would stand. I was in people's way. I didn't know how this whole thing worked. So it was, and then, there's a lot of people watching, especially on the TV series, but even in the gyms, there's people watching as you jump up. So, judgment from other people, judgment from myself. And I say that because I was failing 20 times an hour. And after a while, I was like, I got to figure out a system to this, because if I don't, I'm going to still be wallowing after every fail. I'm going to be in the parking lot. The gym's going to be closed. Everyone's going to leave. So I got to figure out some of this. And the first step of that is the emotional reaction. And I took this from American Ninja Warrior, but then I started to look at my own life. If I'm driving with a friend and they miss a turn, that's a fail. How do they respond? Do they get worked up? If you have a miscommunication with someone, that's a fail. Okay, how do you respond? Do emotions take the wheel, or can we accept that wave and let it go before we respond? And this is what is so critical about that, is it will happen. Whether we have a tantrum, we scream, we yell, or we accept it and let it go, either way, in time, we're going to settle back down. So that's the variable, is how long does it take you to indulge the emotion, but then get back to what matters? Because we all know someone who something bad happens and it takes some days to get over it, takes some weeks, maybe they never get over it. So how quick can you get back to it?
I like that. I was just talking to one of the top neurosurgeons, and we were talking about recovery time. And that's your body too. It's not just your mind, but it's both, right? How quickly can you recover from a situation? And it varies, right? It varies on the intensity, but I like what you're saying. I also have a nice saying that I like that says, I want to respond and not react. So, the gap between a stimulus and a response, there's always that gap, but it can be a very, very small gap, right? And so boom, a stimulus hits you, and then the response, you have a choice in that gap. And it's what I'm hearing you say, right? Am I aware that I have a choice, or does my emotions kick in and I'm just reacting from an emotional standpoint as compared to a response, which says, so how do you see that? How did you apply that?
Well, I say this, so I grew up with an emotional leader, and my dad knows this. In fact, I guarantee you he's listening to this podcast because he's also very loving and supportive. But he was emotionally intense. And I think that was my first learning of that. And coaching high school lacrosse was the first time where I was really in a leadership position with other people depending on me. Athletes who were playing for their dream. Remember being 18 and how badly you wanted that dream, and all the families, the school. I'm going against these other teams and alpha coaches over there. I got the refs. I got all this. And I would always notice, and I think this is really interesting, is after every time, maybe someone got cross-checked or there was a bad call or whatever, every single time it would go, So there'd be 2 seconds after every single time. And during those 2 seconds, I would just wait, because it was the 2 seconds where everyone goes, what is it? It's nonsense. It's all emotional reactions. And then when it settles, then we can do something. And that was just such a clear lesson to me of, okay, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, whatever that means. I stubbed my toe, the hot water's off, whatever. Let's just accept this emotional reaction and then get back to actually what matters. So, the way to put that into your life is, for anyone listening, the next time you have a setback, whether that is missing a turn or that colleague who said they were going to send it to you by 5 o'clock and wouldn't you know it, it's not there yet. See if you can process that emotion before you, just like John was saying, respond and not react.
Wow. Love it. Love it. Hey, we got so many ways to go. I want to kind of bring this around, but we got to get back to your 4 big steps. I only have one right now. Before validation. What's after that?
Yeah. So second one is peak performance, which is, that's right in your wheelhouse. And what that to me means is, how are you at your best when you are in the big moment? Because not all moments are created equal. And I know that for me and for you, whether that's stepping on the stage, that is the moment. If it's competing on American Ninja Warrior, you wait for 1 year. You wait for 1 year to step on the course and compete. That's a big moment. So what do you do to get in that moment? And for that, I really offer people, one is trust in your preparation. That's massive, because whoever you are, whatever you are in that moment, That's who you are. So choose to be confident in it. And two, and this is big, is physiology. That is the biggest. I say this, and I use this phrasing intentionally. We are creatures. And I really encourage people to view yourself as a creature. We live in an environment where we're so fortunate that we got roofs and we got food and we got LinkedIn profiles. You're a creature. You're like a lion. You're like a dog. You're like a dang kangaroo. And why that matters is we need to treat this physical body in a way that is activated. And that comes down to your physiology.
Tell me more about that, because I'm not sure I fully understand. Physiology, meaning you're going to react a certain way, your body's going to react, or tell me.
100%, 100%. So best way I can describe it is leading up to this year, 2021, I was getting ready. We're in the holding area before we go out. So it's the most intense waiting room you could ever possibly be in. People are doing backflips everywhere. You know, it's intense. And I see an athlete who looks like an incredible athlete. I like to joke, he had 19 ab muscles. I don't know how he had 19. I only got, you know, so, and he's doing feats that I can't yet do. So the two takeaways that I had in this moment was one, okay, physiology, perspective, focus. Why am I focusing on this athlete doing backflips? That's not what the competition is. What I need to be performing at is these obstacles that I have trained the last year on. So just that little mental shift of physically, what are my eyes focused on? Why am I looking at this guy when I should be looking at the obstacles and what actually matters? The other one is, you know, when the fear voice or the nerves started to come in, I just said to myself, get moving. Because I know for me that if I start moving the body, blood's going to start going, oxygen, endorphins, and me, I'm going to shift. I'm going to be less like this and a little slouching and I'm going to start activating the living creature. And just by doing that simple choice, get moving, all these other qualities started to come to be.
Now you're talking. I dig that. All right. What is your morning routine? Because that's talk about get moving. So what's your morning routine?
I get to hear yours too?
Yeah, I'll share.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. So the biggest things that I try to do, and I'll be honest with you, I don't bat 100% at this, but the biggest things I try to do is have a moment of quiet. So visualizing, just like you're saying, and you know, we can go into the world of energy and all that, but if you can hold your desired reality for 17 seconds in your mind, there's science that shows that it'll now create it to be a positive momentum. So that's one. Two.
Wait, before we keep going, 17 seconds. I've never heard that. Where's that from? What's the idea of the 17 seconds?
Yeah, so this is a lot from Abraham Hicks and the world of, you know, and I want to caution before I use this word because I can feel people eye roll before I even say it, but manifesting. And to me, what manifesting is visualization. You're setting your force field of a human to this is what I want to have happen. So the science shows that if you have 17 seconds of you hold that positive reality, it will then lead you to have another one and another one and another one. So you're setting that foundation. And the other one that I think is just an incredible, I'd love to share two. One is I am statements. Yeah. Because just like how you started this thing, we've lived and created these characters that we are. So if we are saying I am this, we are setting our operating system to, okay, I am a leader in my organization. I am caring. I am courageous. I am tough. Whatever it is, I say this, I'm a top athlete in the world. Why not set that North Star of my operating system? And the third one that is a really core pillar to me is breathing. And I'm a part of a really cool in Boulder. We do Boulder, Colorado. We do breath work and then we jump in the freezing water and it's great. But even just in the mornings, I'll just try to do, I mean, Wim Hof is an incredible resource for everyone, but if you just do a couple cycles of deep breathing, I mean, that's the gas to this car that we all got, you know? So that's another core pillar.
What's your cycles? Because there's different ones of deep breathing. So what are the ones you like?
Yeah, so there's two, and I'll share a little funny, I don't want to come off too intense with the second bit, but so Joe Dispenza has a great one where you breathe into your belly, like deep into your belly through your nose, and then you kind of lift and pull in your abs to lift that air, and you're also bringing up spinal fluid into the next compartment of your body, more like in your lower chest. And then you lock that off and keep that breath and that spinal fluid moving up to your chest, upper chest. And then you do one more from your shoulders up to the top of your head. And I realized that may sound foreign to people, but what you're doing is you're actually moving some spinal fluid up to the top of your head where your brain is. You're getting oxygen up there. Now, this is where my intensity, I had to check myself. I was listening to one of his lectures, and he goes, in the beginning, if you go outside what you're ready for, you might pass out. The first time I did it, I brought the intensity, John, that you and I have. Next thing I know, I was laying on the ground, and my first thought was, oh, good, I did it right. I did it right because I passed out. So I've reeled it back a little bit since then, but yeah.
No, that's cool. That's, I didn't know Joe Dispenza was talking about that. It's awesome. Very deep yogic teaching of Kundalini. You're raising your Kundalini, right? And it's from your base up to the tip of your skull. And that's great. And you have bandhas in there, which is basically blocks you can do with your breath there. So that's really cool. So every morning you're breathing into your belly, and then does it take multiple breaths? So you bring it up into your central flex, right?
Yep.
Then you hold it for a second, and then are you bringing it up? Tell me your technique.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of think of it as like quadrants. So you lock off one, and now that air is moved up, and then you lock off this one, and now it's moved up. And I usually do 5 cycles. For me, 5 cycles is where I feel good, don't pass out, and it's great. And I'm also big on, stacking them. So if you can do it while having your feet on the ground outside, if you can do it while focusing on your desired reality, then you're getting visualization, grounding, and breath work all in like an efficient bang.
Oh, that's awesome. I love the term stacking. We use it a lot now, but so just to be clear, because I was doing it while you were talking, it's 3 locks, right? So from the belly, the core of your belly up to your solar plex, hold it. Then you're moving it from there up into what, your throat region, or where?
Yes. High chest. Yeah.
High chest. And then from that to the crown of your head.
Yes. And the last detail that I want to make sure is then when you're there, you basically from the base, just like you were saying, basically do like a pumping up to the top.
Oh, you do that.
That's it.
And is that 5? So when you say you do 5 of those, you do 5 of the 3 cycle and then the pumping at the end, or is that done with every cycle?
Yeah. So every cycle is lock off, take the deep breath, lock off every quadrant and do a pump. That's 1 cycle. Okay. I do 5 cycles, and you feel a little bit of a like glow. You feel something going on up there.
Yeah. So, but just to be clear, you take 1 breath and you move that energy up, holding your breath. Then another deep breath 5 times, and then you do that pumping where you get it going. Pumping is after the first breath. So that completes the cycle. Okay. And then you do 5 of those. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. No, I love that. See, I learned something new. Cool. And I like the idea of stacking it too, getting outside where it's cold. Because I live in Sun Valley, you're Boulder, and I just did that this morning. It's 24 degrees, and I get out there and I do my breathing. I actually have a bowing routine, and what I'm doing is a visualization routine. So I'm doing all 3 of those things at the same time. Just what you're talking about. You're stacking the breath. You're stacking your visualization, and you're also bringing your awareness in because it's cold as hell, right? So you're bringing your awareness into the core. I do that every morning. That's every morning. And then I always end standing on my head. Because one thing I learned is, what you just did is you raised the energy up to the crown and then, beyond the crown. But then what you want to do is reverse that energy too. And then you are reversing it by going up. But then if you stand on your head, you don't have to do anything. You just relax and you reverse that energy. So that's the other way to do it. I love also though, I'm sure people listening too. How do you get on your head? It's not hard. I mean, here, number one, first off, it's like, you got to treat yourself, I'm not a doctor, right? So make sure you're healthy and all this kind of stuff. But the couple ways to learn it, any yoga teacher can teach you this. First way is against the wall because you got some support, right? So you got to brace your head with your hands clasped and your shoulders. You're actually putting most of your weight on your forearms, okay? And it's called a headstand. And then you got to get your hips up. That's the key. Most people try to just kick up. Now, get your hips over, as best you can. And then it's just a gentle raise up onto your head. Again, you got to be safe. You got to have all these kinds of things in there. But, once you learn the technique, and you don't have to do the full technique to just get your body inverted. get your body inverted as best you can. A huge, huge health benefit. And it's a clarity of your brain. You'll feel your brain. Just like you said, you could feel that tingling. You can feel the clarity in your brain. It's really cool.
Something I'm taking away from it too is I imagine, I have a slight little nuance too that I want to share with people, but if you're starting your day and you're standing on your head, to me, that also unlocks this, okay, I just did something that was a little unique, a little uncomfortable, instills confidence at an early moment in the day. You didn't go right and sit on the couch and sweat, but there's something that instills a good quality there.
That's great. The other thing it does is it shifts your perspective. So I call it the Gucci flip. Every morning I'm doing a Gucci flip, right? And what I'm doing is, Gucci's my call sign, is I'm reversing my situation. I learned this flying jets, and it's one thing to fly formation and fly with the Blue Angels when you're all right side up, and then you start doing all kinds of turns and stuff, but you want to change it up. You get inverted. And when you get inverted, the whole world changes, right? And I found that I loved being upside down. I love being inverted. I got to the point where I just wanted to be upside down all the time, but it's a mental thing. And you definitely have to be prepared. And then it becomes fun. And that way, when life throws you challenges or you're able to adapt with a different perspective. So I call it the Gucci flip.
I love that. I'm gonna be tagging you on some videos here.
All right.
And the thing that I want to share with people too is I want to be clear that I am not, as I said, I'm not 100% at that. And I think that's really important because, life's life, right? And let's say the kid has a meltdown or if you're like me and sometimes your phone gets off and you saw a notification of something and you're like, dang, and I got sucked into that. And so rather than having a grounded breathwork morning, I'm now sucked into putting out a fire or something first morning. But why I share that is because that's a fail, right? We expected this morning and now it's a chaotic one. Is can you return to it? So you might not be able to do the whole routine, but after that you put out that fire, the kid is okay. Can you get one of your core pillars in and not this all is lost?
I love it. So that's is that the only part of your routine, or you got other stuff you got thrown in there?
It depends on the day. I mean, my favorite thing is I joined a gym in Boulder where if I can do a steam room and then a cold plunge, that is one of my favorite things on the planet.
Yeah. I love that too. Especially the contrast, going back and forth. Okay. We got two more things to cover. And that is, before validation, I got peak performance. You got two more steps, big ones.
Yeah. So peak challenge. And this is important because there's two peak challenges. There's one that we expected. Okay, cool. We got that big meeting. We got that big challenge coming. We're ready for it. The other one is when we get blindsided. And, I kind of foreshadowed on this and I'll bring it up here. So two, one was someone that I love very dearly, my mom, who's diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. That's a peak challenge. We didn't expect that. I didn't decide this is a goal that I wanted to accomplish. That happened. So that was one peak challenge where I felt like everything I stand for was now put through the ringer in a way that I never thought it would be. This was not on American Ninja Warrior. This was not in speaking. This was with someone that was my mom. So, and where I really got knocked on my butt in 2020 was, so the week before 2020, when all this happened, was I had just gone down and got asked to speak to young government in Mexico. So some of the best and the brightest. It was so cool. This Amoons is the organization, and they're incredible. I came back to compete on American Ninja Warrior, where my mom was going to be my guest of honor, which was surreal. Yeah, so cool. And then I was going to leave American Ninja Warrior to go and go do a bunch of speaking engagements, which again that's my purpose. That's what I want to do with my time on Earth. So we get to NBC. We're at NBC Universal. My mom's there with me. We do interviews. We're flexing the camera. I'm like, this is crazy. That night, the night before the competition, they postponed it because of pandemic. And 2 days later, I broke my hand. All speaking engagements got wiped. And so in a matter of 3 days, I went from, we talk about these characters that we've created. I went from a top speaker in the world, competing on American Ninja Warrior with my mom as my guest of honor, to sitting on the couch, out of work, right, with a broken hand. And and this is important, I want to be honest with this. I've been an aspirational, gone after goals for what, 20 years nonstop. I said, you know what, Alex, the wheels can come off the bus. And I let go. I ate worse. If I was depressed, I allowed myself to be depressed. And the wheels came off the bus. My waistline got a little bigger. And then after about a few weeks, I said, okay, we've done this. And is this who you want to be? And that's just one of the most powerful things we can ask ourselves. And so why I bring that up, and I forgot to mention this last, I was going through a tough breakup at the time, which kind of just felt like put it on my tab, you know? Yeah. And but why I say that is I just want to be honest with people that we will get knocked down. And that is what, you know, the book is all about, is that setbacks, challenges, failures happen in all areas of our lives, but ultimately the choice will always be ours of what do you want to do about it?
Right. Wow. Powerful story, you know, and by the way, the book Fail Proof is your book. It just got out in November, correct? Just last month.
Yeah.
So we're definitely going to do that. And the subtitle is what? Become the Unstoppable You. Is that what it is?
That's the one right there.
I love the unstoppable, man. I love the unstoppable. I also love your vulnerability and honesty about, you know, you can talk this all the time, but we are going to get knocked down. You know, I had a similar thing happen. It was after Stanford Business School, which I went to, and I started a company called Centerpoint Entertainment. It's going to be the NASCAR of aviation. It's what Red Bull did with flying. But I was in 9/11. I was in New York during a date that became infamous, 9/11. And I'm trying to close my deal with ESPN, an equity deal. It was all going to happen. And, you know, the jets hit the tower. Well, that day changed a lot of lives, you know, much more than even mine, but, you know, lost the business that day. You're not starting an aviation entertainment company on 9/11. Also lost a relationship about 2 weeks later. You know, she goes, I'm out of here. And same thing. I'm like you, right? I'm sitting there going, okay, you know, $347,000 in debt, but that's okay. It was all my money. I can figure it out. I mean, I didn't take anybody else's money. You know, the hardest one was the relationship, to be honest with you, you know, because I knew we could come back. I could come back, but that opportunity, and it took a while, you know, it took over a year to dig myself out of that hole. And like you said, sometimes you feel depressed, your energy changes. But you know what? It all turned out for the best, because I'm doing what I love now, which is, you know, same thing you are, out there impacting people and speaking. So that's awesome that you shared that story. Okay, let's do the last pillar. And then I want to, I got a special question for you. But so what's the fourth?
I love it. I appreciate you sharing that too, man, because it's powerful to hear that. And so the fourth one is sustaining success, which means that this is going to happen. Steps 1 through 3, which is, okay, we want to accomplish something, and maybe that's elective, right? We want to sell 10X, but also maybe it came after a peak challenge, meaning we started an aviation company, or we're about to compete in American Ninja Warrior, and it didn't go great. We broke our hand. The deal fell flat. So how do we keep it going? Because without burnout, without resentment, with honestly in our core being that glad to be here mentality. And to me, it really does start with the choice that we get to decide who we want to be. No one is saying be this version. No one is saying do great at your job. No one is saying be a loving husband or wife or mother, or no one is saying that or telling us to do it. It is on us. And I think there's just so much autonomy and opportunity and gratitude when we truly realize that we have a choice over who we want to be.
And you said it earlier, that's so well said. It's the I am statement, right? It's not what other people label you as. That, who cares? Right?
Yeah.
But how do you label yourself? Now that matters, right? That's the I am.
So true.
Yeah. Wow, Alex, man, this has been so awesome. I want to make sure everybody, what's the best way people can get a hold of you, can connect with you, buy your book? What's the best way?
Yeah, I appreciate it so much. It's so my name is Alex Weber, 1B in Weber. My website and then also social media handles are I'm Alex Weber, all one word. And for speaking or the book or just to connect, I'd love to hear from everyone.
Love it. Love it. And we'll get all that stuff in the show notes, and we'll make sure we get this out to everybody. There's a lot of people listening that I'm sure can hire you. It's powerful, man. This is awesome what you're giving. I want to end with the glad to be here again. We've just spent some special time together. I know that I'm very grateful for Sugar, number one, my producer, to get us hooked up, but also for you sharing your heart and your energy today. We went deep in some areas that I hadn't planned on going deep in. I learned a lot about breathing. I'm going to be doing that in my morning wake up, but super grateful for your energy, your time, and your passion to help the world. So that's why I'm glad to be here. Over to you, man. You get the wrap.
I appreciate that. And as I said before we hopped in, I've admired of you, your energy and presence and what you've accomplished. And so for me, it's a thrill to be here. It's to have the opportunity to share time with you is truly a deep thrill and encouragement. And similar to what you said, I think it's just really cool. We have gone out and done ambitious feats in the world, whether that's Blue Angels or American Ninja Warrior or speaking. And I just appreciate that we're able to also talk about, the times we do take it in the stomach and get knocked to the curb, because we also have faced that. So I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here for you welcoming me in to share about some of the times you overcame failures as well.
All right, brother. Hey, keep it alive. I'll see you out there on the circuit, and keep making a difference in people's lives. Love you, man.
John, love you too, brother. Thank you. Sugar, thank you.